what you find consistently is that many of the most unhappy and most miserable and most angry people in our media are childless adults. Let's just be honest about it. Because look, the elite model, the American dream to the elites is get as much credentials as you can, get as much money as you can, get the most prestigious job, and that's where you're gonna find your self-worth. But I gotta be honest with you, most of our mainstream reporters are not impressive enough to find a lot of self-meaning in their jobs.
This man, J.D. Vance, bankrolled by PayPal's Peter Thiel, is second in line to the presidency.
He's done things with couches. We've heard a lot of things about J.D. Vance. But my Democrat friends are scared of him. And I'm like, oh, that's why Trump picked him as VP. That's his assassination insurance. He's like, you can try to kill me, but look who's down the line. Yeah, you don't want that? You want that? Oh, good duck, you know?
Meanwhile, comedian Sammy Obeid puts it all in perspective.
It was horrible. She was horrible. She had a very good friend named Willie Brown. I liked Willie Brown. He knows more about her than anybody's ever known. He could tell you every single thing about her. Could tell you stories that you're not going to want to hear.
This tired line of attack was also roasted by the comedian.
To be honest, I don't really like the way a lot of people have gone after Kamala Harris. I think a lot of it's been really low blow. People talking about her dating history, because she dated Willie Brown in San Francisco a very long time ago. She got a position at that time. And it's like, dude, that was a very long time ago. Like, if she had dated Joe Biden, that would be weird. Like, we could talk about that. But if we're going off of dating history, I don't think Trump's doing much better at all. In terms of lawsuits, at least.
A fair point indeed.
Kamala can't have my guns, she can't have my gasoline engine, and she sure as hell can't have my steaks and cheeseburgers.
Others are accusing Harris with no evidence of building her career primarily on race and gender. Some on the right in the past rebooted Trump's birther claims against former President Barack Obama by falsely saying Harris, who was born in California to immigrant parents, is not a U.S. citizen.
These attacks were rather tiresome, weren't they?
And then people are debating her race, too. It's like, we're debating a presidential candidate's race? Like, we've never done... Oh, yeah, actually, oh, yeah, we did with the Obama. We did, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Like, is he a Muslim? You know, or was he born in Kenya? Or like, I don't even think Hawaii's a state. Like, that whole thing. So I realized, yeah, the only time we've ever debated a presidential candidate's race is with Kamala and Obama. And I can't put my finger on what they both have in common, but...
So do we, Sammy. So do we.
Wi-Fi radiation is does all kinds of bad things, including causing cancer.
Wi-Fi radiation causes cancer?
Yeah, from your cell phone. I mean, there's cell phone tumors. You know, that. I mean, I'm representing hundreds of people who have cell phone tumors behind the ear. It's always on the ear that you favor with your cell phone. Oh, and, you know, we have the science. So if anybody lets us in front of a jury, it will be over.
And then there's this guy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a Trump ally.
And then RFK Jr. is like, yeah, I hit a dead bear in the woods. You did what? Yeah, I did a dead bear cub. I had to stash it in Central Park. Like, what? Did somebody ask you that? No, I just figured it was time to confess. Dude, RFK Jr. is so weird. He did an interview where he randomly confessed to stashing a dead bear's body in Central Park. And so people clearly had questions. And his press person was like, you got to clear this up. He's like, no. What I meant is I work with roadkill all the time. I have a lot of in my freezer right now. Like, what? He's like, no, because I feed it to my birds. Like, just stop, man. Just stop. You ever watch videos of RFK Jr. at his house? He's just like surrounded by birds. Birds love him. They'll like just fall on his shoulder, be like, that's my next running mate. You know, it's like, birds love RFK Jr. I think because they sense the worms. But if you know, you know. But that guy's a can of worms.
Okay, that one was good.
What's happening on America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s. It's unconscionable. It has to be stopped. It has to be condemned, and condemned unequivocally.
The only embarrassment is this man right here, not the students. Meanwhile,
for years, you told these kids they had no future job. You told them they were useless, that they were addicted to social media, that they were going to end up being homeless. Well, now guess what? Living in tents in front of Harvard. That's what you get.
You get what you wish for, okay? And this guy's like, well, they're just a bunch of woke kids using hate speech. I'm like, which one is it, all right? You can't be anti-woke and anti-free speech. That's like saying, I'm a morning person who hates breakfast. Like, no, that's your thing. Don't. He's like, well, they're anti-Semitic. I'm like, dude, these protests are mostly being organized by Arab and Jewish students. It's the most Semitic thing you've ever seen in your existence. Arabs are Semitic too. Did you know that? Didn't go to college? Got it. Okay. Have you ever seen a Passover Seder with keffiyehs? Nah, bro. This is pro-Semitism. And he's like, yeah, well, they're un-American and they're terrorists. I was like, do you know why they're protesting? They're calling for their campuses to divest from Israel. He's like, what's a divest? I'm like, that might be the problem. But you just asked me, what is a divest? To divest is a form of boycott. Last I checked, boycotting, the most American shit you can do. It's actually how this country was founded.
Like, for instance, they want men playing in women's sports. I don't think I could ever say I'm thrilled about that, okay? I've seen it. I've seen people really hurt. In the Olympics, you had two boxers that transitioned to women, and in the women's boxing, they both won gold medals. And you saw the young Italian girl got hit a couple of times. She said, oh, bye-bye. I mean, she got hit very hard, and only with lefts, boom. And she then walked back to the corner. She said, I just got hit by a horse. I can't take it. And then she walked back. You're right about a little bit right, but she's fighting a man. But anyway, but the two guys, there were two of them, and they both won a gold medal.
The nonsensical attacks on Imani Khalif were also quite draining, not only because the most powerful people in the world blatantly lied and put a target on her back, but also, in turn, they put a target on every trans person's back. It is the most bad faith political hit job we have seen in some time, or at least until Trump takes over again.
It reignited this whole debate about who can participate in women's sports, and it's always dudes who have the strongest opinion on this. When did you even start watching women's sports in the first place? Let alone caring. Here's my hot take. I think women can decide which league they want to be in. So if you ask me, which nobody did, why not let women choose democratically if they want to be in a certain league? Maybe we'll end up having a girls' league where it's La Femme de la Femmes, or, and it's just like, for boxing, it's just like cat fight, like rare, and they fight it out, and the winner gets to fight J.K. Rowling. And then we can have a high tea division, that'll be hosted by Joe Rogan. And that's fun to watch. That's good sports. Any dude who complained about trans women in sports, like, shut the up and just watch really good competitors beat the living gender fluid out of each other. You know what I mean? Let's see it. Let's see it.
Our defense relationship is critical to both nations, which is why I support the United States' commitment to provide Israel with $38 billion in military assistance over the next decade.
Then there's Harris's stance on the war in Gaza. Obeid, a Palestinian American, shared his thoughts.
Listen, Kamala lost, so a lot of writers lost their jobs, and it hurts a lot of people. I get it. A lot of people want Kamala to win. And let me tell you, if it's about identity politics, let me tell you, I want a woman president. Okay, I want a woman of color president. Okay, I want a black, Indian, Jamaican, whatever she was on the day president. I want all those things. But can we get a different one? That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for. Yeah. Give us a top 5. We'll choose, maybe someone not tied up with genocide. I'm asking for too much, huh? I'm asking for too much. I'm sorry.
And let me be clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7th.
For instance, let's say in the next election, let's say DJ Khaled runs. Right? Right, my thoughts exactly, right? Listen, Arabs, you gotta admit, we're gonna have some conflicting emotions. Because we're gonna be like, that guy, he doesn't represent us, right? You know, DJ Khaled, he hasn't spoken about Palestine at all in the last year. You look at his Instagram, he's disabled comments because all the comments were like, you fat talk about Palestine, like that's what everybody. And now all of his videos are just him eating in front of his kids, and his kids don't even want his food. It's just, they're like, nah. And it's just, yeah, he's disgraced, you know? But you gotta admit, if he did run, party would be like, oh man, Palestinian in the White House, you know what I mean? Makaluba Tuesdays, you know, and it would be kind of cool to see someone, you know, not who looks like me, but who, you know, checks a certain box that I check being in the White House. There'd be something cool, but I would also just be like, can we get a different one, please? That's all I want. And somebody already got mad at me for this comparison. Like, that's comparing Kamala to a DJ. Kamala was a successful lawyer who won case after case. I'm like, yeah, another one. I'm just saying, give us 5 to choose from. We'll pick we the best. You know what I mean? But until then, show us another one. People are mad at me. People are mad at people who didn't vote for Democrats because they opposed the genocide. People want to blame the election on us. So we'll look at the electoral map. That's not what happened. People just like Trump in this country. I mean, if you look at the electoral map, it's a sea of red, and then New Mexico and Colorado for some reason in the middle. It is red. Like, you can literally draw a line from Florida all the way, you know, to Alaska, even through Canada, because they're red too, just like through it, you know. But at least the Democrats finally saw a red line. So, all right.
Please do check out Sammy Obeid when he comes to a town near you. For more info, go to sammyko.com. His YouTube can be found under his name for a ton of long-form clips from his shows. Facebook as well, where he has amassed an audience of over 240,000 followers. Instagram with the same handle being, of course, his name. And TikTok. He's a fantastic comedian. Please support him if you can and are willing. So this happened.
My name is Linda McMahon, and I am the chair of the America First Policy Institute. I'm perhaps one of the few people who's been privileged to call Donald Trump a colleague and a boss, but he's also a friend.
This person, Linda McMahon, the wife of, you know.
The accusations by former employee Janelle Grant against McMahon and another former WWE executive are detailed and explicit. Some so graphic we've chosen not to share them. Among those we can, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Ms. Grant, including pornographic content he recorded with other men. And McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Ms. Grant. A spokesperson for McMahon told U.S. news outlets the lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will vigorously defend himself.
Has a new role. She has been tapped to lead the Department of Education.
Trump saying, "It is my great honor to announce that Linda McMahon, former administrator of the Small Business Administration, will be the United States Secretary of Education." He says for the past 4 years, as the chair of the board at the America First Policy Institute, Linda has been a fierce advocate for parents' rights, working hard at both AFPI and America First Works to achieve universal school choice in 12 states, giving children the opportunity to receive an excellent education, regardless of zip code or outcome or income. As Secretary of Education, Linda will fight tirelessly to expand choice to every state in America and empower parents to make the best education decisions for their families.
Look, while this statement sounds rosy, do not be fooled. Linda McMahon has no experience as a teacher, aside from being certified to teach French, but she'd marry young, and thus she wouldn't have to really teach, so she abandoned the field. She's had cushy roles that money can pay for, like being on the board of regents, board of trustees, blah, 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 blah. So here's the thing, okay? She has a student center named after her. Something money can buy, right? Another seat she held was on the Connecticut State Board of Education. She resigned when she tried to run for Senate. Now, the topic of children's safety has now come to the forefront with McMahon.
As far as McMahon being so shocked and surprised at all this, We go way back, for example, when one of these people, this Mel Phillips, was when we were doing a taping in Allentown or Hamburg, we're in a parking lot. And there have been people who come forward who caught him with an 11-year-old boy having sex in a car. And this fellow's had a reputation for many years. And not only has he remained with the organization, even though this was brought to the attention of the McMahons, but this guy's flourished because he's been with the organization for a lot of years. There's been talk for a long time, and it's no secret that McMahon is trying to say that he's shocked by this all.
And it involves one of the names you just heard, Melvin Phillips from CNN. The suit alleges Vince McMahon, her husband, the WWE and TKO Group Holdings, the league's parent company, knowingly allowed employee Phillips to use his position as ringside announcer to sexually exploit children. Wrestling Inc. wrote of the allegations, pointing to Pat Patterson, who served as the head of wrestling ops, his right hand, Terry Garvin, and the announcer, Melvin Phillips Jr., who worked under Garvin. The outlet reported Garvin and Patterson used a casting couch-style culture while enabling Melvin Phillips Jr. to use his position to groom and molest underage ring boys, is what they called them. From the New York Post in March of '92, McMahon once told a writer he fired Phillips, but per the writer's piece, it felt like McMahon knew Phillips's relationship with kids was, quote, peculiar and unnatural. Oh, McMahon would sue the Post for that article for defamation, though they never disputed his account of the conversation. Pretty eye-opening. Wrestling journalist David Bixenspan, who I reached out for comment, wrote in September of '93, the FBI had a videotape of Phillips Jr. doing what was alleged by his accusers. Okay. In a separate memo, the FBI disregarded the tape because they perceived there to be too many alternate angles. The suit was filed in October in Maryland on behalf of 5 anonymous accusers who claimed to be between the ages of about 12 to 13 and 15 when meeting Phillips Jr. Each accuser says they suffer mental and emotional abuse because of him. The key here, as New York Magazine's Matt Steeb, hope I said that correctly, I'm sure I did say it incorrectly, points out, is the suit claims the McMahons, Vince, and Linda had knowledge of who Phillips was when it comes to his shortcomings and alleged conduct. Phillips would pass away in 2012. Business Insider, led by Bixenspan in the piece, wrote Phillips would be fired, then rehired 6 weeks later in 1988. That would lead one to say, what are we doing here? And why he was rehired, well, it came with the stipulation that he stopped abusing children at work. Oh, great. He would be fired in 1990 and never return. From Insider, a review of hundreds of pages of court records, Freedom of Information Act requests, more than half a dozen interviews, would indicate that while the McMahons publicly expressed shock and concern over the alleged abuse allegations, they actually tolerated them for years. The piece continues. Once the scandal broke, they paid off one of Phillips's accusers in an apparent effort to bring him into the fold, only to fire him and withdraw support after the glare of the spotlights had faded. So, when Linda McMahon worked in the Trump cabinet previously, running the Small Business Administration, the outlet Axios, who Jonathan Swan, I believe, used to work for, they received a leak of the vetting file on her. And let me tell you something, what is pretty eye-opening. On the 3rd page, as I stifled through it, a red flag is listed. And it's titled WWE's Alleged Culture of Sexual Abuse, meaning they knew all of this, alas, it was never brought to the forefront in her confirmation hearings. Incredible. One source of Bixenspan's told him, quote, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. The source suspected that Vince and Linda McMahon, quote, clearly knew what was going on, but really did nothing to stop it. There was not a damn thing we could do about it. To this day, the WWE, the McMahons, they deny all wrongdoing in the matter. Thus, after leaving the first Trump administration and prior to her recent nom, Linda McMahon led a pro-Trump super PAC, and let me tell you something, it had boatloads of money. NBC News reports she donated more than $21 million to help Trump's campaign this election cycle, more than $20 million to another PAC called the Make America Great Again Inc. Super PAC, and another $937,000 plus to his campaign and affiliated joint fundraising committee. That figure, if you want to put it in perspective, ranks third on the donations list behind Elon Musk, who gave about $120 million, and Timothy Mellon, who gave about $150 million. So she is in the upper echelon. Whatever she wants, she will get. And we have also seen this with a lot of people who have given millions of dollars to Donald Trump's campaign, that they now have cabinet positions and cushy roles within the administration. For her duties, let's also not forget, we heard terms such as school choice, specifically in Trump's statement of McMahon. So what does it mean? Primarily, it's private school vouchers and those sort of programs. From ABC News, Trump's backing of the program would, quote, allow a student allotment of public education funds to be transferred to non-public schooling options, including private schools or homeschooling. The AP would contribute. The Education Department also plays an important regulatory role in services for students, ranging from those with disabilities to low-income and homeless kids. Importantly, Congress would likely have to act to establish a federal universal school choice program funded by taxpayers dollars. Thus, it is no shock that Linda McMahon was tapped by Donald Trump and his team to carry out their orders in the fight to privatize education. And why do they do this? Let's not be stupid about it. It's quite simple. While it is framed as a helping hand lent to needy families, vouchers benefit the wealthy most of all, the HELP report found, leaving queer, rural, low-income, disabled, and BIPOC youth and families vulnerable to discrimination, since private schools can curate their student populations, wrote education reporter Nadra Niddle. Niddle would also add, one consequence of vouchers has been the exacerbation of segregation. Following the Brown versus Board ruling, vouchers enabled white families who oppose integrated schools to send their children to private institutions, colloquially known as segregation academies. Wow. In the process, integrated public schools lost funding, a pattern that persists today. One piece of analysis that Niddle found was that in the state of Louisiana, families that were using these programs and sent their kids to private schools were not some of the less fortunate. They had a household that made over $200,000. That's insane. That's insane. That a great majority, some 90%, I believe, would not only be affluent, but also use this to their advantage. More from Niddle. Affluent students are attending private school with subsidized tuition thanks to a select group of billionaires, and you are not going to be surprised at all on who is leading the effort. The Bradley Foundation, the DeVos Family Foundation, the Koch Foundation, Richard Uihlein of Uihlein, Bernard Marcus, Home Depot, Jeff Yass. I believe he's an investor in TikTok as well, is he not? There are certain political action committees that work to remove state lawmakers who are against private school vouchers. This is why y'all need to pay attention on who you're voting for, who you're supporting, and if you are supporting that person, why you should be against this. They would also align on the following: Donald Trump's plan for education. The platform pushes for increasing parents' rights, championing school prayer, and withholding federal funding to schools that engage in gender indoctrination or promote critical race theory. Oh my God, the boogeyman. So, Paul Waldman would put it rather bluntly. Like everything else in Trump's vision for government, he wants the department McMahon would lead to be more corrupt, more ideologically right-wing, and less capable of doing the job it is supposed to do. He also notes that they are going to be targeting universities. So if you want a synopsis of Linda McMahon and why Donald Trump picked her, you now know why.